This is Histories and Mysteries Uncovered. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about someone that is in the news a lot right now.
Yes.
And that is Danny Masterson.
Yeah.
And I will be talking about Andersonville Prison.
Oh, is it haunty or just like bad?
Just bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw his sentencing and I was like, I honestly don't know anything about this. And I was a fan. I mean, I'm not anymore, obviously, but so I wanted to look into it and see what the hell was going on. So I did. And
Sweet.
it's not good.
Oh, it's not good.
So trigger warning. There are some details of rape and sexual assault in this story. So, I got my sources from What is Scientology, The Cut, Us Magazine, and Independent.
You're going to get us killed.
I know. But I've never actually done Scientology.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
is a topic that is no zone.
No, no, no. Get us killed. It's very briefly mentioned in this because he was a Scientologist.
Rude. Okay.
March 13th, 1976, on Long Island, New York, Daniel Peter Masterson was born to Carol and Peter Masterson. I'm not sure if little Danny showed an interest in acting or if his mom had an interest in it, but I'm assuming the latter because he started modeling at the age of 4.
Well, his brother's an actor too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his half sister is an actress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have heard this in here, but I'll just say it now that fun fact, his half sister was Tara from The Walking Dead.
Who dat?
Did you not watch The Walking Dead?
I watched season one and then I became too scared.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't come in until later.
I don't like zombies.
Oh, I love The Walking Dead.
I do not like zombies. They freak me out.
Well, she's in it. She plays a pretty like main role towards the end of the show, so like her a lot. So he started modeling at the age of 4, started doing commercials at the age of 5, and at 8 he was in plays and musicals. By 16, he was in over 100 commercials. And then he started acting in a movie called Beethoven 2, if you've heard of it, about that dog. And then he acted in another series before he auditioned for a show called Teenage Wasteland, aka that 70s show. What are you showing me?
Her head on a spike.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
It's horrible.
Yeah, that happened.
Anyways, back to that 70s show.
Spoiler alert if you guys are watching The Walking Dead.
Sorry. It's been out for a while,
It's been out
okay?
for a hot minute, yes. So in that 70s show, if you guys don't know, he played Hyde. He was a tough pothead with a heart of gold. He also dated Mila Kunis's character, Jackie, for a while.
I didn't like his character. I thought he was a creep.
Oh, I liked his character. But see, maybe
No,
you were feeling the creepiness of the real Danny Masterson.
maybe.
In 2011, he married his current wife, Bijou Phillips, and they welcomed their first daughter in February of 2014. I have here, he is also a Scientologist, and fun fact, his half sister played Tara on Walking Dead. Then everything came to a screeching halt in March of 2017 when 4 women came forward claiming that Danny had raped them back in the early 2000s. And that the Church of Scientology tried to cover it up. I should probably finish my sentence before I pause.
Probably. Good idea.
A 5th woman came forward that December saying that while she was dating Danny, he repeatedly raped her. So that's 5 women that have come forward. Lost my spot. 3 of the accusers were Scientologists and didn't want their identities revealed, so they remained as Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, and Jane Doe 3. I believe we know the identity of 2 of them now because it came out through the courts. The other 2 had previously dated Danny, so we knew who they were, and they were Chrissy Carnell Bixler and Babette Riles. Danny has maintained his innocence throughout the whole trial, but let's get into kind of what happened.
Of course he has.
Yeah. So in December 2017, he said, "From day one, I have denied the outrageous allegations against me. Law enforcement investigated these claims more than 15 years ago and determined them to be without merit. I've never been charged with a crime, let alone convicted of one. In this country, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. However, in the current climate, it seems as if you are presumed guilty the moment you are accused."
Maybe because 5 women have come forward.
Yes. And the current climate he's talking about, I'm pretty sure that was like the beginnings of the Me Too movement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but don't you worry, he gets charged in 2020. But before that, while his criminal case was still being kind of investigated, 4 of the 5 women did sue him in civil court. And the women claimed that Danny and the Church of Scientology leader David Miscavige stalked them and invaded their privacy and conspired to obstruct justice. So in 2020, he was finally charged with 3 counts of rape by force or fear, which I didn't know was
That's
like a thing.
horrible.
Yeah.
That
And I
just
did
makes it so much
It sounds so
worse.
horrible, doesn't it? I didn't know that was like a phrasing that they use,
I
rape by
didn't
force or fear.
either.
Yeah. Apparently the 2 other women who had came forward, because remember 5 women came forward, but as of now he's charged with 3 counts of rape. The other 2 had statute of limitations, and they said that there was insufficient evidence. He was released the day he was charged on a $3.3 million bail, but he could obviously afford that. He's a pretty well-known actor.
Is he though?
Is he though?
Is he though? Because I've only like ever heard of him being in that 70s show.
Yeah, right when this all came out, he was in a show called The Ranch that was getting, I think, some pickup to it.
Oh, wasn't that like an Ashton Kutcher
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher was in it
show?
too.
Oh, that's grody.
Yeah, and then when this happened, they dropped him.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
mean, I saw an article today that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis were supporting him.
Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah. I kind of get into that a little bit.
okay.
I was not happy because I'm a big Mila Kunis fan.
Yeah.
So, for the claim, it was the 3 women claimed that Danny raped them, sodomized them, or sexually assaulted them. After years of keeping this to herself, one of the women spoke to Leah Remini, who, if you don't know who she is another actress. She was on King of Queens. She played the wife on King of Queens. Love her. And she's since put out a whole documentary about her journey leaving the Scientology church. It's not good on the Scientology church. She hates it for many, many reasons. She put out a whole documentary on it.
Yeah, that was ballsy of her.
Yes. Yes. It really, really was. So one of these people spoke to Leah Remini and told her what had happened. And Leah told her that she had to file a police report. And then Leah even went as far as to meet with the LAPD. She said, "I met with the LAPD. I met with Detective Reyes of the Robbery Homicide Division, who is assigned the case. And I told her these victims deserve to be heard." She said, "I asked her to do the right thing by these girls. And I told her that the world is watching." Go, Leah.
She is very outspoken
Yes.
and she is very much for truth.
Yes, I agree. At this point, Danny Masterson's rep said, quote, "I hear the We are aware of the victim's 16-year-old allegations. It was only after the victim was in contact with Leah Remini that she made allegations of sexual assault by Mr. Masterson. The alleged incident occurred in the middle of their 6-year relationship, after which she continued to be his longtime girlfriend.
You do realize that people can be raped in a relationship.
Not according to Danny's rep.
That's ridiculous. What a
Because,
crock of shit.
Jessica, didn't you know that once you're in a relationship with someone, they own you
100%.
and they can do whatever they want?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the things prior to trial that Danny Masterson's lawyers tried to do was to block the mention of the Church of Scientology from any of the proceedings, because they knew that this would not favor well with the jury. But
Honestly, as soon as you said Scientology, I thought to myself, this makes so much more sense.
right, it's not good.
No.
And one former attorney from the Los Angeles County prosecution said that, quote, try as Masterson's team might to keep that evidence out, I think it's inevitable that it will become an element in the trial, and the prosecution will likely use this to their benefit to explain the extremely long delay in reporting these allegations to law enforcement. They have used this both ways. So his camp said that his camp and the church said that the accusers parroted talking points from an anti-Scientology blog, and that at least one of them was encouraged to report him to police by the, quote, prominent ex-Scientologist Leah Remini, and said the lawsuit was ludicrous and a sham because of this. So here they're saying, oh, well, they just talk to anti-Scientology and that's why they're doing this, and it has nothing to do with anything. But there's a particular reason that I will talk about on why Scientology played such a big role in when they went to the police. So the trial began October 2022, and Jane Doe number 1 testified first. And this is where it's going to get graphic. So trigger warning.
Thank you for the warning.
Yes. She said, and I get more in detail into this in a bit, but she said one of the things was that in 2002, he raped her and she couldn't breathe. She said she went unconscious, and when I came to, he was still on top of me. And this seems to be his MO. He, according to these girls, likes unconscious women. It's happened in every one of the rape cases.
It's awful.
Yeah. So,
That's riding on such a dangerous line.
yeah. 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 So Christina B., who is Danny's ex-girlfriend, she's one of the people that came forward with allegations against him. She said that she had met Danny in 1996 after she had just moved to LA. She was 18 years old. She was working as a model. She was fresh into LA. And she met this super charming actor, and kind of it was a whirlwind type of thing. She said she fell for him hard, and after 2 weeks of dating, they moved in together. Really quick whirlwind.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really is a quick little.
Yeah. They dated for a while, so something clicked for them until he started getting bad. So eventually he persuaded her to convert to Scientology, where she was told that anyone not in the church are considered suppressive people and that she had to disconnect from them. So this is that kind of cult mentality of pushing away everybody that you know and only hanging out with the members.
100%.
Yeah.
I was just about to say cult, 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 cult.
Yes. Uh, Speaking of which, there's a little cult on Facebook brewing, but
What?
an old friend of mine is,
Oh,
yeah, it's getting interesting. The leader, I guess I would say, is saying that anybody who's not like following him is a sinner and is going to hell basically, and only if you follow him and do what you say are you not a sinner and you're perfect.
oh my goodness.
And he also wants you to send him money if you're a follower, because he like makes Bibles or something. I don't know.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he's got like 12 diehard followers so far.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be a lot more.
No, so far it's just 12 that we know of, but
And
very,
is your old friend like the leader?
no, he's just gotten sucked
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
anyway, so she said that about a year into her relationship, he became sexually aggressive with her as well as physically and emotionally abusive. Ugh, this is so gross. She said she would often wake up to him having sex with her. And one time she said no, and he called her fat, of like a fat pig or something like that, and dragged her across the floor by her hair.
What?
Yeah. She said one night she woke up to Danny raping her, and she tried to shove him and yell at him, but he pressed her down and pinned her into the bed. She said, I was screaming at him to get off me. She said, quote, I don't want to have sex. No, get off me. And he wouldn't. And she said that Danny had these rules about touching his face and his hair. Like, you couldn't touch his face, you couldn't touch his hair. So she specifically pulled his hair, one, to hurt him and get him off her, and two, because she knew these rules. So she knew it would upset him and like stop him from what he was doing. And he slapped her in the face after she pulled his hair, and she just started screaming. So Danny got off the bed, spit on her, and called her white trash.
Oh, you're the white trash, Danny.
Yeah. She said that after he raped her in 2001, she went to the church, but they told her it wasn't possible to rape one's girlfriend and that it was her job to give him sex whenever he wanted. Apparently, within the Scientology church, there's something called an ethics officer. And the ethics officer is a minister of the church whose job it is to help parishioners resolve problems that are adversely affecting their progress up the bridge. And up the bridge is like their kind of where you're at in the religion. So she went to her ethics officer, and he said that no crime was committed. And then he put her in an ethics program.
No.
Yeah,
So she did something wrong?
apparently.
Oh, fuck.
She also said that in December of 2003, she woke up in pain and was bleeding after a night out. She said, quote, when I first woke up, I felt very confused and I noticed that my whole body hurt. She said, I noticed that I was injured, my bottom. It was red. It was not normal. It was torn and it had a little bleeding and I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't sit down and it hurt to go to the restroom. So she asked Danny what happened, and she said that, quote, he laughed at me and said he had sex with me there, like indicating her butt, like I had sex with you there. I asked him if I was unconscious the whole time, and he said yes. It broke my heart because I really trusted him.
That's so horrible.
Yeah. And so part of the reason that she's saying that she didn't come forward is because she tried, and the church was like, it's no big deal. There's no crime. You need to go through this ethics thing to learn that you're supposed to give him sex whenever you want. So she's brainwashed into thinking that, like, she knows something is wrong, but her church, this thing she looks up to, is telling her that it's not. And I think
And that it's
probably,
her fault.
yeah, and probably part of her is scared of the church. She said that since coming forward in 2016, the church has stalked her, threatened her, and attempted to run her off the road. So again, probably scared. Another accuser, known as Jen B, said that in September 2002, she went out drinking with some friends who were also friends of Danny's. He ordered her a Greyhound. Apparently, that's a type of drink. I don't know what kind of drink it is, but apparently it's a drink. And they kind of got to flirting and to talking, and he said that she could stay at his house. So he was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. She said she felt intoxicated and that she didn't vocally object to kissing or sex, but that he flipped her onto her stomach and sodomized her. She said she fought him off and kind of injured her back a bit in doing so, but she didn't go to police for this incident because she thought that because she had consented to some sex acts and like some types of sexual intercourse that it wasn't really rape.
That's horrendous. As if.
I know. And I know that this is not a unique story. I know there's so many women out there that think that way, that are like, well, I was kissing him first, or, I took off his pants and then I said no, but he kept going. So is it? Yes. Yes, it is still rape. At any point, you are allowed to say
100%.
no. You can say no
100%.
at any point. He could be knocking on the door, about to pop her on in. And if you change your mind, he needs to respect that.
Yeah. Men don't.
No. So that's really sad. And that's not even what she went to the police about. That was just a whole separate incident. The rape that she did report was from another night in 2003 when she was out with friends and she ended up at Danny's house. So I've read two different stories on this. One said that she was out with friends and ended up at Danny's house. Another one said that she actually had to pick up something from a friend who was at Danny's house. So that's why she was there. I don't know which one. Doesn't really matter, but I read both of them.
Weird that those are the
Yeah.
two different stories.
Yeah. She said he gave her a drink, and about 20 to 30 minutes later, she felt really disoriented. She said
No.
that the rest of the night was in and out. Again, we're going to get pretty graphic here. So she remembered Danny pulling her partially dressed into a hot tub, but when he saw that she could barely stand up, he brought her to an upstairs bathroom where he stuck his finger down her throat to cause her to puke. And when he did this, she kind of got some puke in her hair and on her shirt. So he decided to pull her into the shower to wash some of the vomit off. She said she remembered being slumped on the floor of the shower and the water turning off, but then went unconscious again. Quote, to the best of my knowledge, when I first woke up on that bed, he was on top of me and his penis was inside of me. And that's when I came to. Immediately, my first realization was that. That's what I awoke to. She grabbed a pillow from under her and shoved it in his face, but he pushed it back down to her face until she passed out again. She woke up again to hear someone coming up the stairs, and Danny grabbed a gun from his nightstand, pointed it at her, and said, don't fucking move.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. When everything was over, she was still super disoriented, and she ended up accidentally crawling into the closet and passed out. When she woke
That
up,
is so scary.
I know, it is so sad. When she woke back up around early dawn, Danny was still in the room, pulled her into bed, and told her to go the fuck to sleep. She also went to the ethics officer within the church. And he said, quote, if you're going to tell me this was rape, it's not rape. In fact, you're not even allowed to say that word. And
What is rape then?
yeah.
Tell me, ethics officer, where did
What
you get
is
your
rape?
fucking PhD?
Yeah.
What about the gun being pointed at her, huh?
Was that
Is that
ethics
ethical?
effer? Ethics effer. You know what? Yes, ethics effer. She was also told that she would be considered a suppressive person if she ended up going to the police, and she would be separated from her family in the church.
Do you have family in the church?
I think so. Yeah, I think she was like a lifelong
Oh.
Scientologist. This new girl.
Oh, new girl. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the third accuser was known as Jane Doe number 2. And I'm not going to say her name because it was revealed in trial. So I'm just going to. She said that she was invited back to Masterson's house after a night out with friends. They were having some drinks, and Danny persuaded her to get in the hot tub. She agreed, but said, I'm not going to have sex with you. She said she started to feel fuzzy, and her account continued that Danny brought her upstairs to the shower where he started kind of kissing her. And she's like, Danny, we're not going to have, like, we cannot have sex. We're not going to have sex. But he didn't really care, and he penetrated her. She said no. Then she doesn't really remember what happened, and they were back on the bed where he flipped her over and began, quote, pounding me from behind. She said it was so forceful that she had to fight the urge to vomit in his bed. She said,
Oh,
yeah, she said, quote,
what
she
the
felt,
fuck?
yeah, she said she felt like a limp rag doll. Yeah, it's awful. She said, quote, he's like a predator. And as an adult woman, you have plenty of time to see these distinctions between someone having affinity for you and someone targeting you as a piece of meat.
This is so much worse than I thought it was.
Yes, me too.
Wow.
So the defense's strategy for this case was to claim that the women weren't credible and that they had spoken to one another before trial to get their stories straight. So that's why they were similar. The defense said in their opening statement, this case, as you're going to hear, is about 3 women who are going to tell you about 3 nights about 17, 18, 20 years ago. This case is about what you believe regarding those 3 nights, period. The defense went on to say that there was nothing wrong with waiting a long time to talk to the police, but what the women in this case first told the police was, quote, wholly inconsistent with what they're going to tell you in court. One of the women did say that she didn't tell police the whole truth in 2004, but said that what she did tell them she believed to be true. She said that she didn't tell police right away about Danny having a gun and that she had forgotten some other things, like Danny being home that morning after the assault and pulling her into bed. She said, quote, it's almost 20 years ago. I'm really trying. I feel awful for her.
And honestly, you can't blame women for not coming forward
No,
sooner. And the
no.
reason it's all coming out at once because one person was brave enough to go forward the first time.
Yeah,
And so now you have strength in numbers.
yeah. Especially if you're going after a man in any sort of power position. And I would say an
Yeah,
actor, a pretty well known, pretty wealthy actor, has a lot of power. A lot of
100%.
power. He's got all these fans that like him. He's got a lot of girl fans, and girl fans can be, I mean, guy fans can be overly zealous as well. I'm not saying this is a girl thing, but for his case, it was girl fans, that are going to ride or die for you. It can be terrifying. And even women that want to come forward about someone who isn't even in power, half the time you're not believed. You can be turned into, a he said, she said, where they open up your whole life, call you a slut, you have to talk about your whole sex life in court. Like I had a friend who was sexually assaulted, and she was debating on whether or not she wanted to press charges. And one of the things I told her is, you she asked for my opinion. I was like, I cannot give you my opinion on this. This is such a personal choice for you. You have to do what you feel in your heart you need to do. But do know that it's going to be a hard process. And I didn't mean that as like a don't do it. I just it's a hard process for women to go through. And I think it's even some cases where they've turned it around on them and made them the criminal. And it's just no wonder women don't want to come forward. It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Well, and who wants to air all that out
Yeah.
if it's not true?
Yeah. Ugh. It rattles me up. And for the record, I do want to say that I told her it would be hard, but I wasn't like trying to persuade her not to. I said that was completely her choice that she needed to make for herself. But
Yeah.
the woman who came forward, her cousin did testify that she saw bruises on her body the day after the alleged rape. So this was something to kind of corroborate her statement. The defense did not call any witnesses. Danny did not testify in his own defense. Their whole case was to highlight the inconsistencies in the women's stories, saying that they showed signs of coordination between them and trying to say that all of these sex acts were consensual. That was their whole case. Unfortunately, for them to get a conviction in this case, the jury had to be unanimous. The jury was not unanimous. And they said that they, quote, "We are not even close to coming to a unanimous decision on any count and are convinced this will not change." So a
It's
mistrial was declared.
it is so wild to me that things that seem so black and white have inconsistent juries, you know?
Well, okay. So let me finish. I'm almost done, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts.
Okay.
Okay. So they went back to trial. They did it all again. Only this time in the second trial. So remember how each of the women's accounts, they said that Danny gave them a drink and then they felt incredibly intoxicated or disoriented.
Yes.
So in the first trial, they just kind of alluded to that and him possibly drugging them. In the second trial, the judge said that they were allowed to say that Danny drugged them, which
Why?
I think is a bit of a leap because it's not like they have the toxicology reports to back that up,
Exactly.
but they allowed it. So
Oh.
for this trial, 7 women and 5 men found him guilty on 2 counts of rape by force or fear, but they couldn't reach a unanimous verdict on the rape of the ex-girlfriend. I don't know why. And the judge, when she sentenced him, this is what she said. Quote, "I know that you're sitting here steadfast in your claims of innocence and thus no doubt feeling victimized by a justice system that has failed you. But Mr. Masterson, you are not a victim here. Your actions 20 years ago took away another person's voice and choice. One way or another, you will have to come to terms with your prior actions and their consequences." The judge went on to say she knows he's wondering how you could be convicted of each charge of sexual incident occurring 20 years ago involving a woman who you believe is disgruntled and has a vendetta against you. But you were not convicted on testimony of one person. You were not convicted based on rumors, innuendo, gossip, and speculation. You were convicted based on evidence that 12 people in the community found to be credible. You were convicted because each of the victims reported the rapes to someone shortly after the rapes occurred. She also noted that Danny had paid one of the victims nearly $1 million to sign a non disclosure agreement, describing it as, quote, "an awful lot to pay for an incident you claimed never to have happened."
Seriously.
I love that judge.
Oh my goodness.
He was, and this is where Ashton Kutcher and the Mila Kunis letters came in. He had a lot of friends write in letters to kind of attest to his character to try and get a lesser sentence, which happens a lot. I was really upset to see that Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher wrote in. Surprised too, because Ashton Kutcher has been doing a lot of like community work and stuff like that. So it was just surprised me. But anyway, it didn't help his case, and he was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison.
Good.
Yeah.
Let
They
him
will
rot
be
there.
appealing, though. They still have an appeal and they will be appealing, obviously. All right.
Let
So
him
here's my
rot.
thoughts, Jessica. Let me know what you think.
Okay, Ashley, go for it. Go for it, Ashley.
I 100% believe he did this, right? I mean,
Yeah,
those accounts, it's just, I 100% believe he did this. It's a little worrisome to me that someone got 30 years to life with only evidence being testimony. Like there was no physical evidence, which they wouldn't have been able to have because it was happened so long ago. And I don't know how you would get around that then because you can't get physical evidence from that long ago. So like, should he just get off? Absolutely not. But it does make me a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. There just wasn't like a lot of evidence in the case, and I don't
I just say let him rot.
know.
Because honestly, I feel like maybe also the fact that there was more than one,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, one of the sisters even testified, right? So to the bruises on the body.
The cousin, yeah.
Yeah. So I get that it is a lot of testimony, but what do these women have to gain
Yeah.
by
Especially
coming
because
forward?
they were anonymous up until trial when they had to testify, obviously. So
Yeah.
it's not like they were trying to get fame from it. And
Well,
I,
and
I
that's the
completely
thing.
agree with all that. And I agree that he should have been convicted or that he did it. I, if I just, I don't know. If I was on the jury, I don't know that I would have convicted him because the thing that you have to do is beyond a reasonable doubt that he did
The
this.
thing is, it baffles me that people with less sometimes get more, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
The legal system is weird.
It's so fucked up.
It is so fucked up.
I don't know, guys. What do you think? Tell me, am I being a monster?
Yes.
Oh no.
No, I understand where you're coming from 100%. And I didn't even think about that because it sounded like there was a lot on him with the stories and stuff.
Well, and then the question becomes though, how would you try a case like this then? Like how would he ever be brought to justice if people like me are being assholes? You know what I mean? Like how would you ever bring someone to justice for a crime that happened that long ago because you're not going to have physical evidence for it. So
Yeah.
I don't really know where I stand or feel on this, but it does make me feel weird.
The legal system's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yes, it would be horrible if he didn't do those things and he was being sentenced to 30 years, but I think he did do those
I
things.
do too. I do too. I've
I,
always erred on the side of I would rather have a guilty person go free than an innocent person go to jail. And I think that's
yeah,
the way I kind of look at all these cases. Not saying that I think he's innocent because I don't, but I don't know.
like I said, I always got a creepy vibe from him
Yeah. I never did.
just
So look
from
at
the
you.
show. I didn't like him. I think it was just the way he looked. He just looked like a skis. So,
Well, and he was. So
yeah, but yeah, who knows?
let me know your guys' thoughts on this. Hit us up on like Instagram or Facebook or something. Let me know if you think that there was enough to convict him or if I'm just being a horrible woman. And I'm not by any means saying that the women are lying or not taking their side. I would never say a woman's lying about being raped, but I'm just saying it's the amount of evidence. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Tell us your story. I don't know.
You don't know? You don't want to hear my story?
I don't know.
Rude. I like it. It's a good story this week.
Thanks. Oh, me or
I find
yours?
both.
Oh, okay.
I guess you could say both. Okay. So I am going to talk about Andersonville Prison,
Okay.
which seems like an interesting segue from what Ashley was just talking
I was
about.
gonna say, I wonder if he will be in the Andersonville prison.
No,
Wouldn't that
he
be
will not
crazy?
be. He won't be.
I know, but wouldn't that be crazy?
It would, but it won't. He won't be. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
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 Confederate soldiers
Oh, that's why. It's old.
had been carrying their Union prisoner of wars, or POWs, around with them or dropping them off in makeshift camps around the Confederacy during the early years of the Civil War. However, during the war's last year, they had come to the conclusion that a more secure solution was required. That remedy was Camp Sumter, subsequently known as Andersonville Prison. The camp, located in a remote area of Georgia, had been constructed to measure around 1,620 feet long and 779 feet wide, and had been furnished with the barest necessities to house about 10,000 troops.
Bare necessities, oh simple bare necessities.
Forget about your worries and your strife. However, so this place was built for 10,000 people, okay?
Okay.
And if you know anything about mental asylums,
Mhm.
they're built to house a certain number of people,
Yes.
and that usually goes above and beyond.
Yeah, of course. Always.
So, this camp housed 4 times that many
Oh my gosh.
within a year.
Oh
Within
my
a year.
gosh.
And conditions quickly deteriorated. The captives were at risk of dying from disease, malnutrition, and exposure, in addition to the camp's lack of resources like space and clothing. The worst prisoner of war camp the United States had ever seen quickly emerged as Andersonville Prison. They could tell as soon as the first detainees came that the circumstances would not be forgiving. So there was a line that was about 19 feet inside the stockade that went around the whole camp. It was about 15 feet high, and it was the real threat here. Okay.
Oh.
This line was called the dead line,
Oh.
and it was the boundary of a no man's land that separated the inmates from the stockade walls.
No man's land.
Yeah, basically.
Oh.
Confederate soldiers kept vigil in pigeon roosts, which were scattered along the dead line. The soldiers in the roosts were free to shoot and kill anybody who crossed or even touched the death line without giving them a chance to react.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Who in their right mind would want to cross this line with such a high risk of being shot and killed? And why bother posting guards? Because who the fuck would want to go across this? But as it turns out, people did cross this line because their living conditions were that horrible.
That's crazy.
Regarding, yeah, it's horrendous. If you look up pictures of the Andersonville prisoners, it's just horrifying.
Oh, I'll have to do that.
Regarding the inside surroundings, the prison's main issue, of course, was overpopulation. It was not designed to house 45,000 convicts. And Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know where else I'm going from
Yeah.
there. In addition to a general lack of space, the overcrowding led to a number of other challenges, from minor ones like a shortage of food and drink, and starvation was the major cause of death here, unfortunately.
Oh.
And they had a shortage of clothing, and they had horrible disease epidemics,
Oh my gosh.
because obviously that many people in the same area, it's not good.
Yeah.
Due to the Confederacy's preference for feeding its soldiers over its prisoners, Andersonville Prison frequently had food and fresh water shortages.
Oh my gosh.
So when they grew weak, the inmates began to fade away and die. Those who survived the famine often developed scurvy due to vitamin shortages in their bodies. The contaminated water in the camp frequently caused dysentery, hookworms, or typhoid in those who did not get scurvy.
Oh gosh.
So one minute you're like, oh, you get scurvy, but then you're pooping at your butthole and you're dying because of typhoid.
Poop it out your butthole and you're dying.
Sorry, it's not funny, but like, go listen to our Typhoid Mary episode.
Yes.
The overcrowding and at least 400 additional inmates arriving every day pulled the weakest convicts out of the tents and into the open. So those who made it, like, surviving famine or water poisoning or pooping at your butthole, dying.
Doesn't everybody poop out their butthole?
Yeah, but they were dying while pooping out their butthole.
Oh, okay.
So if you survive all of that good stuff, then you would just die of exposure at this point.
I can't believe if you survived all that, they just pulled you out and were like, good luck.
Yeah. Well, they needed to house all the new people.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Prisoner Rover H. Kellogg, who I don't know if it's related to the serial people, wrote upon his entry in May of 1864, quote, "As we entered the place, a spectacle met our eyes that almost froze our blood with horror and made our hearts fail within us. Before us were forms that had once been active and erect, stalwart men, now nothing but mere walking skeletons, covered with filth and vermin. Many of our men, in the heat and intensity of their feeling, exclaimed with earnestness, 'Can this be hell? God protect us.'" Unquote. After 6 months, the creek's banks had begun to crumble, allowing a swamp to also take over the camp's vast middle area. Kellogg again wrote, "In the center of the whole was a swamp, occupying about 3 or 4 acres of the narrowed limits, and a part of this marshy place had been used by the prisoners as a sink, and excrement covered the ground, the scent arising from which was suffocating.
Ugh.
The ground allotted to our 90 was near the edge of this plague spot, and how we were to live through the warm summer weather in the midst of such fearful surroundings was more than we cared to think of just then."
That's awful.
Yeah. Just smelling poop,
Ugh.
skeletons around you.
Oh my God.
Just awful. And in the heat,
Ugh.
Sergeant Samuel Corthell, Company C, 4th Massachusetts Cavalry, remembered, "The camp was covered with vermin. You could not sit down anywhere, or you might go pick up a lice off of you and sit down for half a moment and get up, and you would be covered with them."
Yeah.
Lice.
Ooh.
In between these two hills, it was very swampy, all black mud. And where the filth was emptied, it was all alive. There was a regular buzz there all the time, and it was covered with large white maggots.
Oh.
Sorry, that was gross. The brutality the detainees endured at the hands of the guards may have surpassed the appalling conditions inside the camp, particularly those who couldn't defend themselves or fight back were frequently brutalized by the guards. I had to yawn, okay?
I'm not laughing at the frequently brutalized by the guards part. That's awful. I'm laughing about how she said it.
I had to yawn. Following the war, one of the commanders was ultimately put to death for his crimes after testimony from captives and even some other guards revealed that he had tortured detainees, permitted other guards to do so, and then turned a blind eye to the abuse.
Hmm.
So there's an example of testimonial conviction.
Yeah.
The convicts were left to fend for themselves because of the terrible conditions and the treatment of the guards. A kind of basic social network and hierarchy emerged as a result. Prisoners with friends, or at least men willing to watch out for them, had a significantly higher chance of surviving than those who were on their own, obviously. Each group would defend one another from other groups or guards while sharing the rations of food, clothing, shelter, and moral support. Andersonville Prison eventually established its own court system. It had a tiny jury of inmates and a judge who kept the peace.
Hmm.
This came in handy when one gang went too far in their survival methods. The Andersonville Raiders were a gang of inmates who would fight other prisoners while robbing their shelters of goods and food. They were equipped with rudimentary clubs and scraps of wood, and if necessary, they were ready to battle to the death.
Oh, wow.
So wild. The Raiders were captured by an opposition gang known as the Regulators, who then brought them before their makeshift tribunal. Oh. The jury then handed out sentences that included running the gauntlet, being placed in the stocks, and even being executed by hanging. Do you know what running the gauntlet means?
No.
Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, I
Like
also
me.
didn't know. Ashley clearly doesn't know. It is when the person that was judged guilty is forced to run between two rows of soldiers who strike out and attack them with sticks or other weapons.
Oh, what if you just didn't run? What if you just sat down?
That's not running the gauntlet, then. That's sitting the gauntlet.
What if I just want to sit the gauntlet?
Well, then I'm sure they're just going to go over to you and fucking beat the shit out of you.
Which is worse, do you think? Getting the shit beat out of you or having things stabbed into you?
Well, it's nothing stabbed into you. It's just sticks and other weapons. Like, I think it's just like beating you.
Oh, I pictured like sticks with like pointy ends.
Oh,
I don't know.
well, you watch Outlander, right?
I did, yeah.
It was kind of like when young Ian was brought in by the natives, and then he had to run through them, and he kind of like avoided all their punches and
Oh, I didn't see that far, I don't think.
weapon hitting. Okay, well, you suck. Anyways, on one occasion, a Confederate captain even released a number of Union soldiers on parole with the instruction to return to the Union with a request to resume prisoner exchanges. The crowding could have been stopped, and the prison could have been transformed into a more respectable prison camp had this request been granted. But of course, we all know it would be super silly to approve something that would actually benefit you.
Why would you do that, Jess? Why?
Why would you ever do that? After the Civil War ended in May 1865, Andersonville Prison was finally freed. The majority of the ex prisoners resumed their pre war jobs, thankfully. But a group of laborers and soldiers traveled to Andersonville in July and August of 1865 to locate and mark the graves of the Union dead and turn the area into the Andersonville National Cemetery. They were joined by Clara Barton and a former prisoner called Dorrance Atwater.
Oh.
Atwater was given the task of writing down the names of fallen Union soldiers as a paroled prisoner. In order to inform the families of the roughly 12,000 dead that were buried there, Atwater prepared his own copy of the death record out of fear that it would be lost when the war was over. So, like, he had to do it twice.
That's sad.
It's very nice of him, though.
Yeah.
He wanted to give closure.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Only 460 of the Andersonville graves had to be designated as unknown U.S. soldier because of his list and the Confederates' papers seized at the end of the war. So out of 12,000 people, only 460 people were unknown. Thanks to him.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
After the war, this list was printed in the New York Tribune and used to honor all the men who had endured hardship inside Andersonville Prison by erecting a monument there. There were numerous military trials held to prosecute the captains for their war crimes. The Union troops learned through sporadic inquiry that 315 inmates had escaped Andersonville. However, all but 32 were later apprehended. And now this location serves as a memorial to the tragedies that took place there almost 150 years ago.
Wow.
And my sources were All That's Interesting, NPS, Government, and Wikipedia.
That sounds horrible.
Right?
Yeah.
Like worse than our insane asylums.
Yeah, that's awful. Ugh.
Mhm.
Ugh.
But interesting, right?
Yeah, super interesting. Super interesting.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You sound so fascinated.
I thought it was really cool.
Okay. I have some zombie jokes for you.
I thought you hated zombies.
I do, but you
Okay.
talked about them.
Oh, okay.
Why did many zombies go to sleep early?
I don't know why.
Because they're dead tired.
I'm dead tired.
Same. What is a zombie's favorite language?
I don't know. I suck at these.
Latin, duh. It's a dead language.
I didn't get it until you explained it.
Um, who, who do zombies avoid eating and why?
Well, if you believe the Brad Pitt zombie movie, it's because they're sick. They don't want to eat the sick. But I don't think that's a joke. What is the answer?
Clowns, because they taste funny. And one more.
Okay.
What do you call a zombie that doesn't joke around?
I don't know what.
Dead serious.
I knew it was something with dead. I was like, dead something. Ooh, my turn to yawn. Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon.
And if you want to rate and review us, please do so on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Thanks for listening, and we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye.
Bye.